Welcome to this Friday evening session on Psychotherapy Pamphlet. We'll be playing Ken for about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll discuss some of what he said and probably look a little bit further into this particular section. The section is the place of religion in psychotherapy. It's actually the second chapter, and it's section 2. Section 2, the process of psychotherapy, and it's section 2. In my pamphlet, it's on page 6. And it's the section that begins, to be a teacher of God, it's not necessary. It's necessary to be a teacher of God, but then he continues. So I don't know, for me, it was kind of a strange look at comparing religion and psychotherapy, and it never defines. I mean, he's pretty adamant about what psychotherapy is from his point of view, that it's healing of the mind, but he doesn't really define what religion is. And at one point he says, formal religion has no part in religion. So, I mean, that's sort of a funny way of describing what religion isn't. So I just looked up religion in chapter 10, and he says, and this made it even more strange. He said it was, religion is when you don't try to reconcile the irreconcilable with what can't be reconciled with it. And then I just got more confused. But I sort of got the gist, but not really. So whatever non-duality is, I kept putting that word in there every time you use religion from his point of view and the process of waking up. Because and then he talks about religion and psychotherapy like they're almost like two different paths, but they bring you to the same place. They bring you to the same awakening. And then I started thinking about like Mooji's path, you know, the way he works with his students, his participants, and you know, he's coming from a real non-dualistic approach, and then he's trying to have them have that experience. So I don't know, I mean, we can discuss all this afterwards, and then we can also hear what Ken has to say about it. Usually he doesn't talk about whatever it is I'm all confused about, but we'll see. So, but first, as a meditation, thought we use the review again, review 5, page 329 in the workbook. Page 329 in the workbook. And this is the prayer in italics that Jesus gave us to try to get Dave and Stephen to get quiet and still for a little while. The rest of us too, but especially them. That's why he put quiet and still in there 800 times. I was listening. So, steady our feet, our Father. Let our doubts be quiet and our minds be still. So we'll do that. We'll get quiet for a little bit. And we're on page 329 in the workbook, the prayer in italics. Let's see. Yeah. Judy, you want to read that one?
Steady our feet, our Father. Let our doubts be quiet and our holy minds be still, and speak to us. We have no words to give to you. We would but listen to your word and make it ours. Lead our practicing, as does a father lead a little child along a way he does not understand. Yet does he follow, sure that he is safe, because his father leads the way for him. So we bring our practicing to you, and if we stumble, you will raise us up. If we forget the way, we count upon your sure remembering. We wander off, but you will not forget to call us back. Quicken our footsteps now, that we may walk more certainly and quickly unto you. And we accept the word you offer us to unify our practicing as we review the thoughts that you have given us.
Thanks, Judy. We'll get quiet for a little bit. I'll bring us out. And gently, gently come back. And we're going to be on, at least in my pamphlet, it's on page 6, and it's the beginning of section 2 in number 2.
Tim, are you recording?
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
You bet. Just doing my job, man.
I appreciate it. All right. All right. Thanks. So, anybody want to throw tomatoes at anything Ken said? Anything you want to comment on?
Certainly didn't leave out anything in terms of the realm of specialists and how we've made special relationships out of everything and everyone and everything. Anyway.
I was thinking about, like how offensive it is to be told all kinds of things from an ego point of view. Like, no, I don't want to go to heaven with my, whoever it is I'm upset at. Why would I want to go to heaven with them? I have to spend eternity. It was bad enough I had to spend how many years with them, and now I have to spend eternity with them? You got to be kidding me. I mean, it's not talking about form, obviously, but I mean, that topic came up. Who do you not want to go to heaven with? That's the unforgiveness. That's the thing we're insisting on is robbing me of my peace. They're the guilty party, not me. So one of the themes, obviously, that runs through the pamphlet, through the whole course, is this idea of guilt. The shared interest, there's different ways to describe this shared interest that he talks about us having. And it manifests in all kinds of forms. Actually, whatever we're doing, that form could mirror a shared interest of the Holy Spirit. Meaning I'm doing this with somebody, even if it's in my head, it doesn't even have to be an actual behavior. But however I'm thinking about somebody, am I seeing them without judgment? This whole section, paragraph 1, line 2, it's necessary, however, to teach forgiveness rather than condemnation. I mean, it's always that. It's nothing else but that. That's the shared interest. Am I willing to? And it's shared, it's not based on whether the other guy even does it or not. It's just whether I'm willing to extend it to him. And in that extension, I wake up to our minds are joined. And then what Ken said is true, whether the other person wakes up now or later, it doesn't matter because you're joined. And on some level that they know they're joined too. But scared minds pretend they're not joined. That's what the ego does. But it doesn't take away from being joined already. And once you know it, you're often running in that healed awareness that you're sharing with whoever it is you think of. And they have the blessing of that shared awareness. You're always encouraging that shared awareness in them. So what do you say? At one point he said, we all share the same goal of waking up from the dream. So the first part of the dream that we wake up from is that my brother is a guilty party. That's the first way we wake up. Waking up to, I'm not upset for the reason I think. It's not because of my brother's guilt. It's not because of what he or she did or didn't do, whether it was 37 years ago or last night. And then the second part of waking up is, I didn't do it either. I didn't separate from heaven. I didn't throw Jesus out the window. I didn't kill my connection with my father, whatever words we want to use. But I'm not guilty either is the second part of waking up from the dream. So in any given moment, that's what we're sharing with our brother, waking up from the dream that he and I are guilty in form, and then waking up from the dream that inherently, somewhere internally, we're guilty because we separated from God. It's always guilt. It's always about guilt. That's why it's necessary, however, to teach forgiveness rather than condemnation. And then going back to all the lessons about grievances in lessons 68 through 90, paragraph 3, line 3, all blocks to the remembrance of God, all blocks to me having a miracle and waking up, are forms of unforgiveness and nothing else. I'm still believing you're guilty or I'm guilty. And I can't believe either one of us is guilty without believing the other's guilty. I mean, you know, just under the surface, if I did something terrible and I'm feeling pretty bad about it, I'm still blaming somebody, my parents, God, somebody did this to me. And if I'm holding guilt against you, just under the surface, I'm holding guilt against myself. It's flip sides of the same coin. That's why he talks about guilt like this nebulous kind of amoeba blob. Doesn't matter whether you're laying the guilt on your brother or yourself, it's still guilt and it's still made up. And we got to learn how to let that go. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness isn't I forgive you because you did something terrible. I forgive you because you couldn't do something terrible. Who you think you are as a self that could do something terrible isn't who you are. Who I think I am as a self that could do something terrible is not who I am. We're incapable of guilt. That's what forgiveness helps us let go of believing somebody's guilty in any given moment. That's why it's always about guilt, and that's what always the shared goal is. We don't say that out loud all the time, but yeah. Go ahead, Bruce.
Tim, when you mentioned an amorphous blob like an amoeba, I was thinking of the slime in the Ghostbusters. So Jesus is sort of like our model for a guilt buster, right? So anyway, for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's good. Judy, you trying to say something, or you just?
No, I'm just moving around because I'm so uncomfortable about what I can't take in from Ken. I want so much to take it in, and sometimes the resistance is huge. I did hear a lot of content versus form, so that's good.
It's like being AR-15 with the course. It's not semi-automatic, it's automatic. And it's coming at you. It's like your ego's like,
Help!
Yeah, I was feeling that too. I was trying not to show, oh, you couldn't see me. I could see you freaking out. Yeah. Any other comments?
That other line that says the world has marshaled all its forces against this one awareness. I was thinking, like, you watch a movie like The Matrix, like, wow, what an airtight, propaganda machine, but we don't extend that, and we don't extrapolate that to, everything in the world being ever so much more so propaganda, watertight, foolproof but not God proof. Yeah.
And on and on and on. Yeah. Yep. Dave.
I like this in paragraph 1, there's the line 2 that you read, which says, it is necessary, however, to teach forgiveness rather than condemnation. And mercifully, he follows that up with line 3, which says, even in this, complete consistency is not required.
Yet?
Yeah.
There's no yet there, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. I know that's not an absolute, but it meets me where I am. I'll just say that.
Very good. Yep. Thanks.
I almost felt just a little bit there. Some of the guilt lifted when he was talking about almost letting us off the hook a little bit. Like, of course, it's about the guilt, but his emphasis on the shared interests and saying that, it's not about the doing, it's not about behavior, and not to be concerned with outcomes, but that's the focus, is knowing about the shared interests. So for a minute there, it was on this lightening up, like, you know, are we making it too hard? You know, I mean, it's not, I mean, I don't know. I just felt, just for a brief second there, that he say, you know, like, almost like, you know, we're making it so hard to think, again, that, of course, I'm all about the guilt and everything, but that there's something we have to do about it, you know, and it's not about doing this. That's the whole point. It's not, there's nothing to do because there is no guilt. It's just the belief in guilt, you know? So anyway, I don't know. It's just when he was focusing on that about the shared interests, it almost felt like this, I just felt this gentleness coming from him at that point that kind of gave me an uplifting there.
Yeah. I was saying, you know, it's kind of two steps in what we don't do. I mean, in terms of, there's two things that we kind of do. One is we begin to recognize how often I do make judgments and how consistent that is. And then how painful it is to have to do that all the time. So there is that kind of doing, that kind of waking up doing. And then there's the most important doing is at that point, and what makes this effortless is I don't do anything after that except ask for help. Like, I know I've been looking for guilt. I know I keep struggling to find it, but to see something else is not my job. That's why this is easy. I don't have to do it. But to be willing to ask, to see something else and actually mean it, it takes, you know, well, how do you put it? Complete consistency is not required for folks like Dave and me. Like, sometimes Stephen, but complete consistency is not required. Like, just be willing to check it out. See what happens when you ask for help. I mean, the guarantee is every time we ask for help, we get it. And we do. I mean, that's been the reality for me, for sure. And for most of us, I think. So, yeah. I mean, we make it hard. We make it really hard. And the hard part, the irony is, the hard part is looking at how hard we make it when it doesn't have to be hard, because we're not the ones doing it. I mean, we're the ones that made it hard. Insisting with, oh, now what do I have to do? Really. The paragraph 6 on whatever page you got, page 7 for me. If healing is an invitation to God to enter his kingdom. That's a funny way of putting it. Does God have to be invited into his own kingdom? It says a kingdom, for God's sake. That'd be like trying to keep, well, maybe a bad metaphor, but that'd be like trying to keep the president out of the White House. You got to invite the president to come back to the White House. Now, I shouldn't go down that road. But anyway, but, you know, like an invitation to God to enter his own kingdom. Because we're the ones that basically threw him out of us. We are the kingdom. So we kind of have to kind of invite him back in, even though he created us innocent. We're the ones that believe, at least, that we threw him out. There's one of the big sections we read recently was the invitation to the Holy Spirit. In this case, he's saying invitation to God, but the invitation to the Holy Spirit to come back into our awareness, into this process. And ask, you know, show me something else besides all the guilt I've been looking for. And then, if healing is an invitation to God to enter his kingdom, this is kind of cute. What difference does it make how the invitation is written? What difference does it make what form it takes? What ink you use? What emoji you put on it? It's the invitation itself that's important. However it's done, do it. Just do it. And then, you know, do it any way that feels right for you. What difference does it make how the invitation is written? Does the paper matter, or the ink, or the pen? Or is it he who writes that gives the invitation? Meaning it's coming from us. That's the important thing. to God, to the Holy Spirit, we're inviting them back into the process of seeing, the process of perception. God comes to those who would restore his world, the real perception, for they have found the way to call to him. If any two are joined, he must be there. And since we're all joined already, he didn't go anywhere. He's already there. It does not matter what their purpose is in form, but they must share it wholly to succeed. Interesting way of approaching form. Different ways to look at it. One way is, am I in this process of connecting with my brother? Am I saying, in this shared purpose of letting go of looking for guilt, am I including everybody? Or am I saying, no, I'm just looking for no guilt in this situation with my brother? Like, I think that's what special relationships try to wind up doing a lot is special love relationships. It's an agreement to not look for so much guilt. Like, if you don't look for so much guilt in me, I'll make a bargain with you, and I won't look for so much guilt in you. and then you know, that works out for a while until it doesn't, until the proverbial guilt hits the fan and blows up in our face. But it doesn't, you know, in form, it's not the form that matters. It's always the purpose of the form. Am I doing this with whatever it is I'm doing? You know, whether, you know, I'm studying with somebody, or I'm doing a course meeting, or I'm driving down the highway in traffic. Am I looking for guilt, or am I willing to see whoever it is, the people alongside me in the car, in traffic, am I willing to see them the way Jesus does? And you know, he's asking us to do this everywhere. That is the real world. And we're going through our day looking for that innocence instead of the guilt. That's the real world. And we'll see it. And we get glimpses of that every time we remember to try this stuff. Anything about any of that? Abby, you got anything? You're shaking your head, yes. You must have had a good day, a good Holy Spirit day.
It was good, but I thought it was really comforting. The last sentence of paragraph 1, where it said, relationships are still the temple, and they will be made perfect in time and restored. It's like very hopeful.
Mm.
No matter what's going on, it's going to happen. It's already happened. You know, it's in the can, so to speak. It's a wrap. It's just very comforting.
Yeah, that's good. I should watch the news with that in mind. Me and Donald, we're already tight. We're already joined. No problem here. I just found out they tore down, last couple of nights, they tore down a couple of the statues around the Denver Capitol building. And ironically enough, it wasn't a Confederate soldier, it was a Union soldier. And there was a plaque there where the soldier, it was dedicated to a lot of the battles the Union soldier had been in, but it wasn't a Confederate thing, but they tore them down. The plaque mentioned some Indian massacres that were really bad. So the plaque should have came down, but not the Union soldier, for God's sake. I mean, it's just like, at least from, you know, if their point of view, if the Confederacy was where they're trying to point that out and they don't want monuments to the Confederacy, just the irony of tearing down the Union guy was pretty ironic.
It always amazes me how much, you know, we focus on the screen instead of the projection. And I was thinking, but even on the level of form, you know, what an oxymoron the phrase Union soldier is. If you think about it, I mean, what? Why would Union need a soldier?
Contradictory words.
Really, the pure non-duality, anyway, certainly doesn't need foot soldiers or whatever.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Back to, oh yeah, 7 in paragraph 6. It is impossible to share a goal not blessed by Christ. So to share any goal truly, it's impossible to do that not blessed by Christ if we're inviting the Holy Spirit into that, whatever it is we're doing. And it could be the most menial thing. It still will be blessed by Christ if I'm not looking for guilt and I'm looking for innocence instead. And I'm asking for help to do that. For what is unseen through his eyes is too fragmented to be meaningful. The Holy Spirit doesn't see fragmented guilt. He just doesn't see guilt, period. He doesn't see separation. He doesn't see the unjoined. He doesn't see seeming separate things. As true religion heals, so must true psychotherapy be religious. Okay, somebody explain that. I'm open for a little bit.
I've always liked Richard Bach's definition of the true purpose of religion is finding out what is true. So in that context, that kind of works, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Almost. Anybody else? Help.
Yeah, Stephen, I
Good.
just think it's true religion is content, and true psychotherapy is content, and it goes back to that said formal religion has no place, and it's just saying look for the content, not the form. I don't know. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, and it sort of reflects when I looked up religion in the course in the big red, the glossary thing. It's in the course about 20 times, and about half of those times are right here in this section. But in chapter 10, he does say, true religion, when you have a spiritual experience, you stop trying to reconcile the irreconcilable with what's true. And he kind of says that in something we just read, like, I think it was in maybe paragraph 2 or 3, but I mean, he used that word reconcile, reconciling truth with non-truth. That was a big topic a couple of days ago in chapter 14. What is true is true. Truth can't be reconciled with untrue. It just can't. Content can't be reconciled with form if it's just a mirror of content. I mean, it's not real. Form isn't real. It's just a reflection of whatever the content is. So, yeah, a Union soldier, a living death. I mean, I get the living death thing, but I mean, there's no living death in heaven. I mean, it's only like living life in heaven. But, you know, if you're doing something miserable, it feels like a living death. Well, there's all kinds of contradictory things like that in the world. Yeah. I picked up on some internet thing where we were doing a little thing on kindness in the course, and I put kindness matters. You know, there's emojis for that and all. And then Chris Scott in South Dakota said, that's a contradiction in terms. True kindness can't be matter. Took me a while to figure out what the hell he was talking about. What's wrong with kindness matters? Kindness matters. I was like, oh. Actually, it took me a couple of days to realize what he was saying. Chris likes to drop things on me like that.
Or just matter doesn't?
Matter doesn't. Yeah, that's good. Ooh, matter doesn't matter. All right. Line 2, both have many forms, meaning true religion and true psychotherapy both have many forms because no good teacher uses one approach to every pupil. On the contrary, he listens patiently to each one and lets him formulate his own curriculum, not the curriculum's goal, but how best he can reach the aim it sets for him. I was, I was in this 12-step thing, and there was a guy that I really admired, and I admired his recovery, so I asked him to be my sponsor. And I didn't know he had this whole history of being like a fundamentalist minister, and he had thrown religion basically out the window. So he told me that basically all my ideas about God and forgiveness and the Course in Miracles were all crap. So, I mean, we were both headed towards the same goal, connection with higher power. However, he was quite adamant mine was wrong. Needless to say, that didn't last very long. I realized that was a mistake. And I quickly bowed out. And he actually said, when I bowed out, he said, "You're the one who knows the best way to do this for you." I mean, he admitted that. And then he seemed okay. I thought he was going to give me a lecture about, the continued lecture about a fundamentalist God. Judy?
I was just thinking about how your relationship was a contradiction.
It didn't seem like it at first. It seemed like a good idea. Well, it flipped me out.
Maybe Jesus is a fundamentalist in the sense that he puts fun back into mental. No, that's from Swami Beyondananda, so that's not original.
I've lost my place now. And lets him formulate his own curriculum, not the curriculum's goal, but how he can best reach the aim it sets for him. Perhaps the teacher does not think of God as part of the teaching. Perhaps the psychotherapist does not understand that healing comes from God. They can succeed where many who believe they have found God will fail. I thought it was interesting the way when he said something similar to this. He said, some psychotherapy doesn't heal and some religions don't take you back to God. And Ken just skipped over that. I was all set to be righteous and name names and which psychotherapy doesn't work. And Ken was just like, well, we've all got our own forms, or all our own way of doing it. He didn't even talk about the ones that fail. I was all ready to be revved up. What must the teacher do to ensure learning? What must the therapist do to bring healing about? Only one thing. Remember in City Slickers, Jack Palance, the ultimate cowboy, says to Billy Crystal, who's come to the Dude Ranch and he's trying to play cowboy, and Jack Palance kept driving him crazy. He said there's only one thing, but he would never tell Billy Crystal what it was. Finally, at the end of the movie, Billy Crystal is screaming, "What's the one thing? For God's sake, tell me what the one thing is." But anyway, that's what he's saying here. Only one thing. The same requirement salvation asks of everyone. Each one must share one goal with someone else, and in so doing, lose all sense of separate interest. All sense of making you more guilty than me, or making somebody more guilty than us.
So that's
all sense of separate interest. What's that, Dave?
So that's the one thing?
That's the one thing. Well, from the Course's point of view, I don't remember what if Jack Palance ever told him what the one thing was.
Never told
He
him.
never did.
Nope.
That was pretty good. It's a great movie, but
He died. Jack Palance died before he could tell.
oh, is that right? Oh my God. Oh no. Oh. Only by doing this is it possible to transcend the narrow boundaries of the ego would impose upon the self. Only by doing this, losing sense of all separate interests, only by doing this can teacher and pupil, therapist and patient, you and I, accept atonement and learn to give it as it was received. Thought it was really interesting that Jesus threw us and him in there too. You and I. It's like, I mean, it just like, he hasn't done that previously. Well, not specifically, not like that anyway. You and I.
Kind of like you got to bring the personal to the transpersonal to make it work, right?
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, the idea of we have separate interests from Jesus, because look, he's more holy than we are. No, no, his interest is helping us wake up to all of us are holy already. There is no guilt. You and I, therapist and patient, teacher and pupil, lose all sense of separate interests of guilt. Judy?
I could just cry when I read that. You and I just, man, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Good. So as a closing, thought maybe, Tony, you want to read that last paragraph 9 and we'll get quiet for a little bit?
Sure. Communion is impossible alone. No one who stands apart can receive Christ's vision. It is held out to him, but he cannot hold out his hand to receive it. Let him be still and recognize his brother's need is his own. And let him then meet his brother's need as his and see that they are met as one, for such they are. What is religion but an aid in helping him to see that this is so? And what is psychotherapy except a help in just the same direction? It is the goal that makes these processes the same, for they are one in purpose and must thus be one in means.
We'll get quiet for a little bit. And gently come back. So if I got the dates right, we're going to take a couple weeks off just from all the classes in general, just to kind of step back and breathe and regroup. And we've always found that really helpful to do that, especially after something this intense. And so for the next, the dates are on our website, roughly July 1st through July 16th. And I'll probably get antsy and want to start after about a week or 10 days or something. But right now that's the proposed plan. So anyway, it looks like the next 2 Fridays, there won't be a class. It won't be a class for sure next Friday, but maybe in 2 Fridays there will be. I don't know, maybe. Either case, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back. Take a little breather. Actually, the breather begins Wednesday, I believe it is, July 1st. So we'll still have a class every day except Saturday, right? Yeah, nothing on Saturday. Sunday we have 10 a.m. Monday we'll have 5 p.m. and then Sunday 10 a.m., Monday 5 p.m. and then Tuesday 10 a.m. It's all on the website because I can never keep it straight. If you can, great. So anyway, so the next time we do get together, we'll do the role of the psychotherapist. The role. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.